Hail to the chief, if you don't, I'll have to kill you. I am the chief, so you better watch your step, you bastards.
Go, and don't stop until we've reached the end of the journey. Now, it's your choice. Do you want it? Do you really want it? Right now, here we go.
Peoples of the universe, please attend carefully. The message that follows is vital to the future of you all.
Now, they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later.
You are going to hear some things that could frighten you. You may shake your head. You may not believe it.
Not Congresswoman Harman, let me interrupt you. Congresswoman, let me interrupt you just for a moment. We've got some breaking news out of Miami. Stand by, if you will. Right now in Miami, Justin Bieber has been arrested on a number of charges. The judge is reading the charges.
Katy Perry is a demon-possessed satanic witch. Okay?
Her claims that marijuana, Doritos, and the police program were a bad mix.
Sexy Grace, where she might contradict herself a little bit.
The judge allows in evidence that Trayvon Martin did have marijuana in his system at the time he died. What difference, if any, does that make? Because I've seen too many felonies, and I don't mean pot sales or growing pot. I mean people on pot shoot each other. Isn't it true that when you smoke pot, you just want to lay on the sofa and eat?
Are you following this healthcare thing?
Sean, it's a disaster.
I know.
Lafayette, Indiana just acquired an MRAP from the U.S. military.
The government is funding the radical Muslim Brotherhood that's Al-Qaeda like to attack military bases in Asia.
If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Like your current insurance, you keep that insurance. Period. End of story.
Good evening. We are all about to hear the President of the United States apologize for the fact that his promise to the American people that if they like their current health insurance, they can keep it, has not held true.
Yeah, I wish we could keep their eyes open and shove their faces into the truth.
Warning signs that I'm aware of.
And it was a revelation that the White House had no intention of making public.
President Bush was told in August that Osama bin Laden.
Again, we were misled that there was supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, the salt sprang out of that. And that is easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Let's kick some ass.
New World Order.
Billions of people on planet Earth are living in ignorance. Resistance Cannons on WGTN and the WGTR Media Network.
Yep. You may say I'm discriminating against him, but there's just something about those strings that's just coming out of his body that just hits me the wrong way, you know. He's a puppet. You know, when I first found out, I was like, oh no, my life. You know, it's pretty much like when you were a kid and you found out Elmo wasn't real because you saw that little wire on the bottom of his hand. It didn't matter what he said after that. Elmo, love you. No, my life. Then your mama tried to make it better, talking about, there's somebody else making that noise for Elmo. No, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, that's exactly what y'all jokers be doing when I tell you this guy is the puppet in chief. I don't want to hear it. Yeah, he's been bought off, paid for. Just like his buddy Mitt Romney. Oh, I thought they were going against each other. No, the banks bought him off. Goldman Sachs. That's right, some of the most corrupt people here. And what they've been doing, they've been buying off the elections, presenting you with the ones that they bought off and say, look, these are your choices. Pick between them. Either way, they win. The State of the Union. You see the debt, $17.3 trillion and counting. And it's not going to get any better. You want to know why? Because that's been the plan all along. You might hear Obama talking about, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They ain't going to do none of that. As a matter of fact, remember, he didn't even write the speech. So who I should be addressing is the one who wrote the speech. Look here, girl. Did you really mean that when you said you was going to help the economy get better? Anyway, back to this. They plan on crashing the economy and then posing as the saviors. Eventually, they want to get it that all the currencies of the world have been reset and devalued so they can introduce a one world currency. That's the plan. It's not overnight. It's by increments, by increments, by increments. And it's sick. State of the Union. The top 1% reaps 90% of income gains since Obama took office. And look, he even admits it right here. It's not a mistake. They want to eliminate the middle class so that it's only ultra-rich and poor. That's how you have more control over the people. Gun control. We do not have any gun control debates until something is addressed. You need to see Sandy Hook hoax ultimate case closed. It has 100% proof actors were used in the Sandy Hook hoax and has never been debunked. There's too much going around, people debating over gun control and guns and all this when Sandy Hook was a hoax. Look at these people. They're asking for money. As you can see here, let me click on this fund. Look, they're still raising money. How much money do you need? Look, $20 million, April 16th. December 17th, $27 million. And now we go back to here. They're trying to raise $2.6 million. Now, where have you heard that from? If you don't like what I'm saying, just go watch the video and debunk the whole thing because it's never been debunked. Glenn Beck couldn't debunk it. Amazing Atheist couldn't debunk it. David Pakman, none of these guys debunked it, and they can't debunk it. What's going on? America. Majority of Americans support efforts to legalize marijuana. It's about time. Look at this. Medical marijuana headed to Florida ballot after Supreme Court decision 4-3. Yeah, that's amazing considering we're coming from the times when we had Newt Gingrich running around saying people should have the death penalty for having marijuana, and people agreed with him. Fact is, there's never been an overdose on marijuana, and it is less harmful than all the other things that have been legalized. You want to have the Boston bombing members in attendance? Well, I'm going to make an example out of them. This NSA program that's been going on is unacceptable, especially when we have things like the Boston bombings. You want to spy on every single American citizen. You want to spy on people abroad too. But here's the whole problem. You can't even stop one terrorist attack. It has never done that. And then you want to spy on us now from Angry Birds. It's unacceptable, and anybody who is agreeing with NSA is a traitor. State of the Union. We have these overpaid news anchors working hand in hand with the government to serve up to us propaganda. You remember that one news report where they were talking about the NSA? Oh, wait. We have to interrupt it because we have to tell you about Justin Bieber. That's shameful. And not to forget all the fake news reports they've been doing this year and last year. Climate change. We got to address climate change, really. Let's talk about the definitions. Global warming is when the earth is warming up due to human intervention. It's our fault that the earth is warming up. But now they want to switch it and say it's climate change. Why? Because it's getting colder and they can't really explain it. Because it's supposed to be getting hotter, so they call it climate change. But here's the real deal. Climate change is actually the earth natural changes. We have nothing to do with that. The earth is going to change its climate whenever it feels like it. But they don't want you to know that. They want you to think climate change is global warming, which is why they came out and said, oh, the reason why it's getting cold is because of the polar vortex. And the polar vortex is caused by global warming. But see, there's a little problem with that because Time magazine said in 1974 that the polar vortex was caused by global cooling. See how they switched it up? So there is no reason to why all this money should be going to this global warming hoax. Ted Cruz, you want to say you're concerned about Obama. Well, guess what? I'm concerned about you. You trying to pull one over on the American people, you puppet. What is this right here? Goldman Sachs. Oh, we see you've been bought and paid for. You're purchased, but you're not alone. Let's not forget about your friend, Marco Rubio, who said George W. Bush did a fantastic job. This guy's like a blank slate, and at any moment in time, they'll prop him up and tell him what to say, and he'll gladly say it. He's also purchased, bought off, as you can see here, Goldman Sachs. Rand Paul. This guy is your 2016 Republican frontrunner, and it does make sense. You guys were actually going to vote for Chris Christie. What the heck? That loser? Walking around with Obama everywhere? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to at least make it look real like you're against him. Yeah, so your 2016 Republican frontrunner. All right. Yeah, but I still don't trust him either. Oh, you thought I forgot? When you endorsed Mitt Romney, the guy who was bought and paid for by Goldman Sachs, when you endorse somebody, you're basically telling all your supporters to throw your support behind the person you're giving the support to. So you're telling your supporters to go support Mitt Romney, which is not right. And then you keep throwing libertarians under the bus when you don't even realize what's going on. People are waking up to the NSA. People are waking up to the marijuana, but what do? I'm not a libertarian. I'm not advocating everyone run around with no clothes on to smoke pot. All right, I remember now. This is an old quote. You thinking about all the old arguments. You thinking about what Newt Gingrich used to say and all this. By 2016, the marijuana issue is going to be mainstream, and it's going to be straight common sense. Mike Lee, you did the same thing. Unacceptable. Over here supporting Mitt Romney. Where are your values? Where are your ethics? That's the worst person you could have picked, especially when you had Ron Paul in the race. Oh, let's look at Kathy McMorris Rogers. She says a lot of nice things, but it's not good enough. McMorris Rogers supports the NDAA. She supports indefinite detention on American citizens. She also voted no on removing U.S. armed forces from Afghanistan. Yeah, March 2011. You can look it up. And voted no on investigating Bush impeachment for lying about Iraq. You should also know she voted for NDAA 2014, which is worse than the last ones. And she also voted yes for CISPA. But Kathy, look here, don't get a big head now. The only reason why they propping you up is because Hillary Clinton is running in 2016, and they might decide to put you up against her since you are a woman. But then we look at Hillary Clinton. She ain't no good either. Goldman Sachs bought and paid for J.P. Morgan Chase. The big paydays. So let's wrap it up. You know, I find it highly offensive that we keep electing these presidents that can't even write their own speeches. And then some of you may say, oh, well, this whole video is boring. But yeah, I understand that for every generation, there's a people who straight up don't care about what's going on. All they do is live, eat, sleep, and have fun, and then after that, they die. Well, if that's your purpose, you're going to have to get out of my way, because there's an awakening happening that has never happened before, and it's going to change the face of this planet. We have to stop investing in these puppets. We have to stop investing in these Goldman Sachs sellouts. They are already invested in. They are already purchased. 2014 and 2016, we have to do something different. And it is this simple. People over parties.
My fellow Americans, men and women like Corey remind us that America has never come easy. Our freedom, our democracy has never been easy. Sometimes we stumble. We make mistakes. We get frustrated or discouraged. But for more than 200 years, we have put those things aside and placed our collective shoulder to the wheel of progress to create and build and expand the possibilities of individual achievement, to free other nations from tyranny and fear.
Brianna did mention the word rancor, and on that subject, the State of the Union was not even really the main event in boxing terms. That might have come after, thanks to a congressman from New York. Michael Grimm from Staten Island was talking to a reporter from New York One, an all-news cable channel, about the State of the Union when the reporter, Michael Scotto, asked Grimm about an ongoing campaign finance allegation. So Grimm got mad, and you can see him walk off there, but it's what happened moments later that was just wow.
Why? Let me be clear to you. You have addressed me again. I
just wanted to ask you. Why? This is a valid question.
I'm telling you.
not man. You are not man. Break you like a boy.
So, yeah, I'll break you in half like a boy. I'm not totally sure that I understand the meaning of that, but I did fully understand it when he said, I'll throw you off the blanking balcony. Congressman Grimm, in a statement, said he was annoyed, I guess we get that the reporter asked him about an investigation when he had only agreed to talk about it at the State of the Union. The congressman said he's sure he won't be the last member of Congress to tell off a reporter.
A lot of things are revealed here. Sometimes members of Congress get angry when they can't decide what it is they're going to be asked, and we as reporters ask what are the top stories. And for his constituents, his campaign finance investigation is front and center, of course. But that kind of reaction is rare to get on camera. It's a reaction sometimes reporters get in private, but to get it on camera is really
We're going to break this news in two, like a boy.
And throw it off the balcony.
Breaking news.
Welcome back to New Day. Take a look at this bizarre scene. This was inside the Capitol Hill Rotunda after the President's State of the Union address.
Why? Let me be clear to you. He has addressed me again to realize.
Almost impossible to believe, but you were just watching New York Congressman Michael Grimm physically threatening a local reporter who just asked about an ongoing federal investigation into his campaign fundraising. The reporter's name is Michael Scotto. He's with us right now. He's from New York 1, and Michael Grimm, of course, is going to face a whole new set of uncomfortable questions for him. Michael, it's great to have you.
Nice to see you.
I don't know what Grimm was thinking. A kid from Floral Park isn't going to back down. You got that Strong Island going. You just did a normal interview. You had to ask about the ongoing investigation. What did you make of his reaction?
I was surprised by his reaction. I asked that question at the very end of an interview about the State of the Union address. I decided to throw in that question about the investigation because we had been waiting to hear from him on allegations that had surfaced just a couple of weeks ago, and I asked that question. I really wasn't expecting much of a response. I thought maybe he'd say, I don't want to talk about that, or, I've done nothing wrong, something to that extent, and then it kind of devolved into what we saw on television.
Now, you can't hear it that well, so let's go through. It's a good thing you're a reporter, so you can tell us what happened. You seem to sense something in his eyes when he's looking back at you. What did you see?
So what happened was we taped this segment basically as live. It was going to air as is. And I asked him that question, and he said, I don't want to talk about it, and walked off. So I then had to turn back to the camera and kind of explain as to why he left the interview. And I think it was during that time he got really infuriated and then came back to me once I had wrapped up and then leaned over and said what he said, basically saying that if I did something like that again, he was going to throw me over the balcony. I mean, I'm a New York City reporter. I'm used to pushback, but I had never encountered anything like that.
No, right? I mean, look, you cover politics. It can get ugly. There's a lot of threats and things that go on. Do you believe the substance of the threat, or are these just angry words?
No, I don't believe the substance of the threat at all. I mean, I'm not taking it personally. I just think he was angry by the fact that I asked that question, and I think he was even more angry by the fact that I kind of explained to viewers why he was not going to answer that question. So I'm not taking it personally. I'm not frightened by it. I think it's just, it goes with the territory.
You know him. You've interviewed him a lot. You're a hard-nosed guy. Everybody knows that. You don't pull any punches. But were you surprised by his lack of discretion, coming back in front of a camera, whispering as if the mics wouldn't pick it up? He should know better.
Yeah, I mean, that was surprising because he knew. I had told him that we were going to air this as is, so he knew that this was essentially, for all intents and purposes, a live situation. And he knew that the camera was rolling. He knew that it was going back to New York 1. So for him to come back and say that, I mean, was surprising to me. He had to have known, I mean, it's kind of PR 101, not to say anything like that in front of an open mic.
His best defense would be this. Did you have a deal with him about what the interview would and would not cover? I won't ask about this. Was that any condition of...
There were no preconditions. When I spoke to him before the interview began, I didn't really talk to him at all about what we were going to ask. I just said, we're going to do this interview. We're going to air it as live.
So he had no expectation that wouldn't be asked?
That was not my understanding.
All right. Michael Scotto, thank you very much. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it's great to have the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you.
And it'll be interesting to see if the congressman follows up with a better apology. He just explained why he was angry. He didn't really say he was sorry.
Okay.
Michael Scotto, New York 1.
Hail to the chief, if you don't, I'll have to kill you. I am the chief, so you better watch your step, you bastards.
Waking up America, one day at a time. It's Jalen Cannon, here on Loose Cannons Radio News.
Jalen Cannon with your headline news.
What's up, my people? It is Wednesday, the 29th of January, 2014. Yesterday we had the State of the Union address and some pretty interesting stuff happening afterward, actually, more so than during the New York representative threatening a journalist. And you heard a little bit about that. And if you'd like to read more about that, you can do so at realclearpolitics.com. And other news today, coming out of CBS San Francisco, there is a report that some Bay Area communities could run out of water within 4 months. As the drought in California continues, 17 communities throughout the state could run out of water within 60 to 120 days, state officials said. In some districts, the wells are running dry, while other reservoirs are nearly empty. The state health department compiled a list after surveying the more than 3,000 water agencies in California last week. The water systems are all in rural areas that serve from 39 to 11,000 residents. Times that by 17, they range from tiny Lampico County Water District in Santa Cruz County to districts that serve the cities of Healdsburg and Cloverdale in Sonoma County. Some districts have long-running problems that began before the drought. Larger communities like Santa Clara Valley, however, have fared better because of long-running conservation programs. So there's been a lot of reports about the water. If it's not fluoridated, it's running dry in areas in California and areas in Virginia. There was that chemical spill, and who knows if that water will be ever safe to drink again. Seems like a manipulation happening here. I seem to remember an article that came out way back, maybe May or June of this past year of 2013, about a plan to stop some of the reservoirs and to kind of cause a drought. I will have to do some more research on that, but like I said, that was back in May or June of this past year, so if you remember anything about that or what have you, you can send me some information on that one to LCRN at WGTRmedia.com. In other news, Feds cut stimulus as expected, and Bernanke prepares to depart. This is coming from Reuters. Written by Jonathan Spicer and Jason Lang. And this is pretty recent news. The U.S. Federal Reserve on Wednesday announced a further $10 billion reduction in its monthly bond purchases as it stuck to a plan to wind down the extraordinary stimulus despite recent turmoil in emerging markets. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke, who hands the central bank's reins to Vice Chair Janet Yellen on Friday, also adjourned his last policy-setting meeting without making any changes to the U.S. Central Bank's other main policy plank. Its longer-term plan to keep interest rates low for some time to come. The Fed acknowledged that economic activity picked up in recent quarters in a statement after the two-day meeting, a nod to the broader U.S. economic strength that prompted it to decide last month to begin reducing the asset purchase plan starting in February. The Fed will buy $65 billion in bonds per month, down from $75 billion now. It shaved its purchase of U.S. Treasuries and mortgage bonds equally. The decision received unanimous backing from Federal Reserve policymakers. Overall signs of improvement in the U.S. economy suggest they would stay on track to cut the purchases in line with what Bernanke predicted would be measured steps until the program was shelved later in the year. A sell-off in emerging market currencies and stocks in recent days and disappointing U.S. job growth in December did not deter Federal Reserve officials. The meeting is Bernanke's last before Vice Chair Janet Yellen moves into top spot. He took the Federal Reserve far into uncharted territory during his 8 years on the job, building a $4 trillion balance sheet and keeping interest rates near zero for more than 5 years to pull the economy from its worst downturn in decades. Unfortunately, according to these things I've been reading, I don't think we have seen anything yet. Policymakers on Wednesday stuck to their promises to keep rates near zero until well after the U.S. employment rate, now at 6.7%, falls below 6.5%, especially if inflation remains below a 2% target. With concerns growing over possible harm from so much money printing, the Federal Reserve decided last month to make its first cut to the bond buying. Data in recent weeks from consumer spending and confidence to industrial production was largely upbeat and has bolstered the view of an improving economy. Forecasters estimate U.S. GDP grew at an above-trend annual rate of 3.2% in the fourth quarter after notching a 4.1% advance in the prior 3 months. The show of strength provides a welcome backdrop for Bernanke, who steps down on Friday after an unusually tumultuous and highly experimental stint atop the world's most influential central bank, the Federal Reserve. Okay. Moving on, in other business/financial news, Boeing shares dip on a cautious outlook despite fourth quarter profit jump, also coming from Reuters. Boeing beat expectations for its fourth quarter profit on Wednesday and pointed to a surge in 2014 commercial aircraft deliveries, but its shares slid in early trade as its conservative profit and cash flow forecast spooked investors. Yes, I wonder how many of the drones they plan on sending out over our lands are coming from Boeing, and this is why they expect so many aircraft deliveries in 2014. The aerospace and defense giant said core earnings, which exclude some pension expenses, rose 29% to $1.84 billion or $1.88 a share, as it is delivered record numbers of its 737,777 and 787 aircraft and upped production rates. However, despite the buoyant results, shares in the Chicago-based company fell 4.8% to $130.42 on the New York Stock Exchange as investors worried about its cautious outlook for the year ahead. So, what exactly does that mean to you and I? Well, these federally traded companies, shares, if you own a share in Boeing, I would suggest that maybe people start taking possession of the commodities, the precious metals, and other things they trade. So if they are allowing their company to be traded on the stock market federally, and you are buying shares of said company, how is it that you go about collecting or taking possession of these shares besides just on a paper basis? These are the questions. If you are dabbling in the markets, you need to start asking yourself before it just totally crumbles in upon itself. And with that, we have a special report brought to you by Doc Canon.
What I offer tonight is a set of concrete, practical proposals to speed up growth, strengthen the middle class, and build new ladders of opportunity into the middle class. Some require congressional action, and I'm eager to work with all of you. But America does not stand still, and neither will I. So wherever and whenever I can take steps without legislation to expand opportunity for more American families, that's what I'm going to do.
President Obama, in his fifth State of the Union address tonight, the emotional crescendo of the speech came at the very end of the address when President Obama introduced Sergeant First Class Corey Remsburg, an Army Ranger, who he had met before Sergeant Remsburg had been wounded. He'd met him at a D-Day commemoration on Omaha Beach. Shortly thereafter, on his 10th deployment, Sergeant Remsburg was grievously wounded, and President Obama told the story of his recovery tonight. He said, like the Army he loves, like the America he serves, Sergeant First Class Corey Remsburg never gives up, and he does not quit. That was punctuated with a standing ovation that went on for more than a minute and 40 seconds. It was absolutely the emotional high point of the address tonight. There was not a single person in the room who was not standing up, at which point Congressman Tim Huelskamp, Republican congressman from Kansas, tweeted, "Obama politicizes the military to end his speech. Totally expected, Mr. President." Joining us now is Congressman Tim Huelskamp of Kansas. Congressman, thank you very much for being with us. I have to ask you if that was tongue-in-cheek. Do you really believe that was politicizing the military?
We actually invited our own veteran, one that served bravely as well, some tremendous heroes out there, and did receive word from the administration when we put a press release out that perhaps we were politicizing that fact. But very brave men, a lot of brave heroes, and it's very interesting because the president very clearly ran against the military. He continues to highlight them when it helps politically. But at the end of the day, more of the same in the speech. Rachel, things are not going well.
How did the president run against the military?
Well, it's pretty clear. He wanted to bring the troops home. He wants to close Gitmo. He wants to do all kinds of things. But at the end of the day, the focus on the speech should have been, how are things working out? And right now, they're not working out well.
Bringing the troops home your definition of being against the military?
No, what the president talked about when he first ran obviously is very different. So, whether it's his NSA issue, whether it's the issue of how much the president should have in terms of authority. I mean, he ran against Bush on all these things, Rachel. It's very clear. And all of a sudden, he's all for presidential power now. He's all for the NSA now. He's all for the military now during a speech. But at the end of the day, his policies are failing, and that's why we have 24 million Americans still looking for a full-time job.
Congressman Hillskamp, I still don't understand how he ran against the military. I still don't understand if you mean he was politicizing the military by praising that sergeant. I do have to ask you about the thing that you tweeted immediately thereafter. 3 minutes later, you said, was there a diplomat in Benghazi that gave his life for his country, Mr. President? Are you denying that an American diplomat died in Benghazi?
Do you know what happened in Benghazi? The president refuses to come clean. Your Hillary Clinton refuses to come clean. They won't tell us what happened. And a diplomat died. We believe the initial evidence still is because the president or somebody in the White House refused to provide support to defend that diplomat and our Marines on the ground. That's irreprehensible. I will not accept no answer from that, and that's what we're talking about. We need answers on all kinds of things, Rachel.
Regardless of whether it's irreprehensible, I mean, are you questioning whether or not Ambassador Stevens gave his life for his country? Was there a diplomat in Benghazi that gave his life for his country?
Rachel, we're looking for answers. You know this president and Hillary Clinton are hiding the truth on Benghazi. We're just looking for them to come forward, let those folks testify that we're on the ground. That's the facts of the matter. We're still looking forward to that, and that's a congressional responsibility. It's also a responsibility of Hillary Clinton. You know, just a few months ago, she said, what difference does it make? 2 days ago, she said it was the biggest regret of her life, the failure in Benghazi. So we're looking for some answers there because that should not happen again. The Republicans have passed bills. We put stuff in the budget that would help protect our embassies and diplomats like those who perished in Benghazi.
Did you vote for the spending bill that just cut the security funding for American diplomatic facilities abroad? There was a significant cut to those diplomatic facilities in the last spending bill. Did you vote for that? Did you support that?
No, I did not vote for that bill.
Did you vote for the cut to diplomatic security facilities and their security before the Benghazi incident?
No, we had passed additional security measures as requested by the administration. But don't forget, the facts of the matter is Hillary Clinton did not request security enhancements. And we do believe that this administration let our troops down there and let this diplomat down. We need more answers there. We need answers about a lot of things. This administration promised to be the most transparent in history, Rachel, and I think if you would stop being a cheerleader and be a journalist, you'd recognize we're not getting those answers.
Did you just call me a cheerleader?
I don't know. Maybe you have that history. I'm saying look at the facts of the matter.
Hold on.
I'm saying you're a cheerleader for the administration.
Okay, so I'm a cheerleader?
You're not being a journalist when you're not willing to look at the facts. If it was Bush, you would be jumping and screaming.
You're amazing.
But because it's Hillary Clinton, you don't want the answers, Rachel. Face the facts. We don't know the answers
tonight,
there.
Release of Obama's speech reads like dictates from a king. #lawless. Imperium. Whenever and wherever I can, I will act without constraint. Lawless. The new imperial presidency, Obama will do everything without legislation to advance his radical agenda. Yes, you deleted Article 1. When you tweeted that the president is hail to the king, Obama, to unleash the imperial presidency, are you making the case that this president is acting in an unlawful manner by proposing the things he proposed in the State of the Union address?
The president acted in numerous unlawful manners, particularly in his willingness to suspend parts of Obamacare. He went out and said big businesses, for example, don't have to live with Obamacare. I think that's lawlessness. I don't think he has that authority. I do not think he had authority to make recess appointments. I think the court's going to agree with me.
Sir, I'm just
you have to agree
on the
with
case
me.
That you're making, which is that his speech says that he is a king.
The speech makes no law. The president makes good speeches.
The release of the speech reads like dictates from a king.
It really
lawless.
does.
What did he say in the speech that was lawless tonight?
14 different points in where the president said, I don't like the American people who they elect. That's what the president was saying. He said, I don't like Congress. I don't like the American people who sent these people up here. And so he listed 14 different dictates, executive orders. Yes.
Are executive orders lawless?
An executive action without authority is lawlessness.
Executive
he did not
orders
have the
by
authority.
Presidents are lawless?
If there is no authority. Under Obamacare, he decided, Rachel, you know this,
that's true.
he
if
recited,
there is no authority, then it has no authority.
He has no authority to suspend Obamacare, and that's what this president has done. I think that's lawlessness.
Your tweet stream tonight and your arguments here are from two totally different universes.
It's the universe of reality, Rachel, the universe of outside this beltway. the president's speech fell flat out in the real world. In Washington, there's still a Twitter, but recognize Americans want some answers. They want some solutions. The economy's flatlined. 6.5 million more Americans are in poverty since this president took office, and he wants to preach about income equality that he created. That's a failure. And that's all we're asking, Mr. President. Be truthful that your solutions have not worked.
Congressman Tim Hillskamp of Kansas. I got to admit, I've always enjoyed you on television with other people. I found you spectacularly disingenuous in explaining your own words tonight. But I hope you'd come on my show and we could have this conversation one-on-one sometime soon.
Oh, we'd love to continue it. Thank you
very much.
Wow. I love that sweet goodbye.
You know what he missed?
It was like
Newsmax
Mad Libs.
What I know it was just interesting that he was basically criticizing the commander-in-chief. If he was familiar with the Constitution, you should remember, he's not the military separate. He's the commander-in-chief, the President of the United States. And he's paying tribute to a wounded soldier who's...
It isn't income inequality, it's income opportunity. Reject these policies of growing entitlements and dependency.
You might think that paying people enough to live is so self-evident that even crazy people could understand it, but you would be wrong.
Do you believe in raising the minimum wage?
What I'm saying is I believe in economic opportunity.
You said back in 2005 that taking away the minimum wage could potentially virtually wipe out unemployment. Where's the evidence for that?
Calm down.
Let me try one more time.
Just asking if you want $10 and 10 cents an hour. I'm just asking if you believe that there should be an increase in the minimum wage.
No, I don't.
All right.
So you're saying that the minimum wage is one of those regulations you take a look at, you try to eliminate it?
So that employers in America can pay workers $3 or $4 an hour.
This economic death spiral where workers get paid next to nothing so they can only afford to buy next to nothing.
Can I finish your point? Can I finish your point?
But when you say something that isn't true,
can I finish your point, please?
You have the worst record of making false statements.
She doesn't want to. I gather she doesn't want to talk about that.
No, I want job growth. I want opportunity, and I want people's wages to go up.
Yeah, I know. We all do.
Well, in the age of obstruction, does Michelle Bachmann speak for the Republican Party? No, she doesn't, but she does represent a mindset that this country has really had it forced upon for some time. The American people tonight are going to find out just how aggressive President Obama is going to be. In 4 short hours from now, President Obama will be entering the House chamber for his 5th State of the Union address. The president has made it clear he's going to be talking about bypassing Congress with executive orders in tonight's speech. This has Republicans already hinting of possible impeachment.
I think that it's a constitutional violation. We have a minimum wage. Congress has set it. For the president to simply declare, I'm going to change this law that Congress has passed is unconstitutional. He's outside the bounds of his Article 2 limitations. And I think that goes to court, and he knows that it takes a couple of years to get this thing to where it can actually have any effect. And he's going to run it that way. This threat that the president's going to run the government with an ink pen and executive orders, we've never had a president with that level of audacity and that level of contempt for his own oath of office.
He really is abusing his constitutional powers. Some would say that's grounds for action against the president, maybe even an impeachable offense. Is that what you're saying?
You know, I've stayed away from that word, although it does come to me out in the streets of America.
Really? It goes, you hear it all the time out there in the middle of Iowa? I find that hard to believe, Congressman. Quit making stuff up. You're lost in a cornfield. President Obama is planning to sign an executive order that will raise the minimum wage for federal contractors to a mere $10.10 an hour. That's not a whole lot either. The increase will only impact future federal contracts. Now, the president will highlight the executive action in tonight's State of the Union address. It's supposed to be a big highlight. It's something liberals have been fighting for a long time. But wait a minute, then there's House Speaker John Boehner. He's already crying foul. They're giving reaction to the speech before the speech. Here's what Boehner said about the increase earlier today.
Let's understand something. This affects not one current contract. It only affects future contracts with the federal government. And so I think the question is, how many people, Mr. President, will this executive action actually help? I suspect the answer is somewhere close to 0.
Well, the speaker is flat out wrong again. someone should inform the Speaker of the House this executive action is estimated to impact 250,000 workers in the future. Boehner also said Republicans are not pleased with the president using executive actions. The Speaker said that there are options available for Republicans to fight the president.
House Republicans will continue.